am so happy y'all came because I was freezing a while ago. So I want somebody to freeze with me. Okay. All right. We got to thank the Dollamore Foundation, and we are part of the Lake City Creative Alliance. And we need to thank the people that run that there Life Center for having a warm place to have tonight. Dale and Zach, we had probably a difficult time right now with filming, and Zach's coming in and helping us do that today. And we will be talking about 1940. So if you're old enough to know about 1940, speak up, please. And thank y'all for coming out. And it's the coldest night of the year so far. Okay, we're going to start off by talking about the election of 1940. Boyd Nettles wins again, mayor. Then we have Mr. Doggy McElveen, Mr. Wesley Singletary, Mr. Van Epps, Mr. Talmadge Askins, which is Harry's uncle, Murray McClendon, Mr. Luthi Ward, which is Miss Patsy Ward's father, all were on the city council in 1940. Okay, this guy here is named Mr. Willie Cook, and he was a man of all trades, actually. He was a fireman, dealt with city government, and he came up with an idea of building. He loved to build stuff. Came up with an idea of coming up with a, what we call it, a amphibian vehicle that went on land and water. He got a fuselage, an airplane fuselage, and built, used the cabin and used the rudders, the cabin to direct the direction of the vehicle itself. That thing went 60 miles an hour on land. No picture of it. And 8 to 15 miles an hour on the water. And according to our expert over here, Mr. Woody Trula, 8 to 15 miles an hour is flying. So, and later on, he's going to invent another something that we will remember, okay, during the summertime. This is the basketball team of 1940. You might want to recognize some of these folks. This guy right here is named Roy Cook. Who is Roy Cook? Snooty Cook. That's Snooty. That's Dr. Red Roper. Mr. Herb Rollins. Abe Tommy. And Ariel Copfield with hair. Okay? You know, they didn't have preseason basketball back then. They started in January. And the first game, Mr. Herb Rollins broke his hand. And the way the coach found out was that, you know, he was right-handed. He wouldn't use his right hand. He would dribble the ball with his left hand. That's how athletic he was. Until the next day, he went over across the street to the Whitehead Infirmary and they x-rayed it, and it was sure broke. So he was completely out of 1940 basketball season, and they had a terrible time I mean, they about lost every game because of him. The Junior Chamber of Commerce. I was president of the Junior Chamber of Commerce in the 1970s. It was chartered in 1940, January 25th, 1940, but actually they were organized in October of 1939. And they were very active. Dr. White, may I know Dr. White. Dr. White was the optometrist in town, and he had some beautiful girls. And of course, he was going to be on the beauty contest. Okay? And my brother Jamie is curious about this other guy named Sidney Dubin. Okay, he was Jamie, tell us who he was.
I can't recall.
He ran
Oh, he had a dry goods store in town, like everybody else had a dry goods store. Okay? Mr. Ed Bowen was chairman of the Azalea Festival, along with Mr. Joe Dew, Mr. Louis Cook, Mr. Sid Rittenbaker, Norman Williams, and Coach James Millsap. Then we had another committee headed up by Dr. Joe Webb, and then Mr. S.B. McDaniel, Mr. Lenore McDaniel's husband, was in charge of giving a report on the streets and transportation of Lake City. Then we had another committee, and it said Boost Lake City. And they would go down to Charleston every other Sunday and get on the radio for 5 weeks. And they would promote Lake City.
Did you hear it in Lake City from Charleston?
What?
Did you hear the radio station from Charleston
Yeah.
in Lake City?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Mr. George Thomas was chairman of it. Had Ed Bowen, Joe Dew, Dr. White, Wesley Singletary, Louis Cook, and my favorite person, Mr. Harry Bibico. He was that. The junior senior, that actually started before 1940, but it was going to be a Hawaiian atmosphere, okay? And in the middle of all this hoopla, we have Mr. Harry Whitlock, and he gave a talk on the volcanic eruption, and it must have been something wild, knowing Mr. Harry. There were 40 tables and 160 guests. Okay, that's pretty big, and headed all over at the gym across the street. The baseball team, guess what? Same old people, but you got to realize you didn't have many men or many boys playing baseball, football, basketball. Okay? Mr. Herb Rollins, Mr. Snooty Cook, got a fellow named Bill McKenzie. That was his daddy. Okay, Mr. Bill McKenzie, R.L. Cockfield, and Coach James Millsap, as the ones I know. Okay? And Abe Tommy didn't play baseball. Okay? Okay? little closer. All right. Lake City wins the upper division, beating Timmonsville. Okay? In baseball. Mr. Herb allowed only 2 hits, struck out 9, and you don't have a 27 at least number for a perfect hit. Perfect game. Bill's daddy had 2 hits, and Joe Mims had 2 hits. So all in all, we did great in the upper division, but the district playoffs, not so good. We lost. Now, Lake City has a habit of building, you know. Ever since the Depression, actually. We got people, you know these folks. You got Mr. Sid Carter down the street. You got Bill Horner. You got the Cockfields. R.H. Askins. That's Harry's house on Moore Street, 1940. Got Miss W.W. Stevenson on Thomas Street. Got S. Libbert right around the corner on Blanding. Miss Ed Copfield is Antique. Mr. Bangs on McAllister Street. Then you got Dr. White, Roland Askins, Mr. Alton Coombs over on William Street. So we're having, homes being built now. After we go down Main Street, building Main Street, we start building around town. Auto inspection. I can remember back in the late 70s, early 80s, where we had to get a little sticker put in the car. And back in 1940, we started having this. Okay? Man would come by, would check the horn, the lights, the brakes, the steering mechanism. But you had to go to your mechanic first to do it. And you got a little sticker to put in your window. So this actually started back in the 40s. You know, the Baptist Church and the Methodist Church got organs. From the past lessons, I would say. Now the Presbyterian gotta have an organ. That organ costs, in today's value, $64,000. It's a beautiful organ, guys. If you've ever been to the Presbyterian Church, it's a beautiful organ. A contest. Miss Sarah Hagan, Mr. Roy Cook, and Aba Tommy. Miss Hagan won first place. Mayor Lawrence Gaddy became known as Mayor Lawrence Smith. Sonny Hagan was a sister brother of Miss Sarah. And Abe Tommy placed in second, and Roy Cook placed in third. It's amazing. We still have fields today. 5,000 people came to look at the parade of the students. 5,000. That's amazing. Okay? On the committee, y'all recognize these folks, don't you? Miss Carolyn Mason, who became Miss Jack Stewart, Miss Emily Askins. This lady right here you may recognize. Got a rich son named Henry. Miss Elizabeth Johnson. As Miss Mason. Miss Emily. Miss Lizzie Gravely. And this is Miss Jarnet Green. Mr. J. Paul Trulock. So we're beginning to know a little bit more about folks from now on out. First place in all this field day stuff was Liberty Union, Liberty School District, and then the Union School District. 500 participants in one day. The band. We had a high school band, and then we had a fireman's band. The fireman's band was Mr. Willie Cook, who was actually the director of the band itself, who came up with the band. And they would go down to Charleston to the fiesta, to the Azalea Fiesta Festival, excuse me. And it said that the band was outstanding, and they would play an old song called Tipperary, which is a World War I song. And they played it over and over again, and the people loved it down there. 23 students entered the state contest. I'll tell you about that a little while on. 22 winners from Lake City High School. Okay? And the district winners are so much, I said, forget it, I'm not going to highlight any of them. But you got Duna Hannah, or Duna Godwin. You got Thelma Motley. Robert Gregg is the doctor that became a doctor in town. And these are not fly-by-night contests. They were basic core subjects. The kindergarten program. We had a play, and the cast members, Blue Boy was my brother Aubrey, Mary Jo Floyd, which is Susie Floyd's sister, Sarah Whitlock was Mr. Rat Whitlock's daughter, J.P. Matthews, Libby Evans. Who was Libby Evans? Libby Green. Eddie Floyd. Elizabeth Plowden became known as Mrs. Buddy Wallace. Okay. Marshall Hyden. Eric Hyden. And then we had a guy named Abel King. Okay? And then they had a graduation for 7. Okay, Eddie Floyd got his diploma. Libby Evans got one. Elizabeth Plowden got one. Joe Fincher was Miss Jim Poston's brother. Okay? The Koala Club. We got a whole bunch of them. Was presented in 1940 also. The Kiwanis are no longer an organization in Lake City. We have the bell Sam Mac donated to the society, and it's upstairs. I should have brought it. Okay? But the people of the know were big members of the Koala Club. And Mr. Louis Gross, which is Sam Mac's grandfather, was the first president. Okay? Okay. "51 diplomas, the largest crowd in Lake City High School history." Lake City High School won more places in the state mental contest for 9 major subjects than any high school in the state. That's an educational program. Okay? And then the Rotary Conduct Medal was given to Bill's daddy, Mr. William McKenzie. You got that medal? It's called a Rotary Good Citizen. Okay? And Thelma Motley. Okay? And it was voted on by the senior class for the most gentlemanlike and most ladylike during their high school career. And there's Miss Thelma Motley, which was valedictorian. And Hasselwood Rogers was salutatorian. And these are the guys that graduated, the 51 that graduated. I have no idea. I'm sorry. Okay? A.K. Brown Stables, which was the Truluck Stables. After Mr. Truluck died in 1920, it went through a guy named A.K. Brown, which is Miss Melanie Brown, Miss Thelma Durant, right, first husband. Okay? Caught on fire at midnight, and Lake City couldn't handle the fire. They called in King Street, they called in Florence. Florence didn't get there at 1:30 in the morning. Okay? And then later on, it became known as another store in town. Okay? Can you read that small print at the bottom? If not, I'll tell you why. Okay. If you're walking down Main Street here and Church Street, there used to be a plaque here. It had memory of J. and True Love,
It's in my backyard.
1940.
If you want it, come get it.
I bet it's heavy too. Okay. That was not his time of living in Lake City. It was a time when he had the stables. And I thought forever, you know, that don't sound right. A recreation center at the Methodist Church. On August the 2nd, 1940, had over 200 people. Now this is before the Lake City United Methodist Church social hall was built. Okay? We had the fireman band to perform. They came out with a new instrument called the electric xylophone. And at that time, nobody ever seen one. There were games like table tennis, volleyball, dodgeball, croquet, horseshoes, beanbag, hide and seek, table games like Chinese checkers and checkers. And at the end of the evening, 50 watermelons were sliced. But I don't know where it was. Yeah, it had to been inside, but I don't know where inside was.
Is that when they had the log cabin?
Might have been the log cabin that was behind the swimming pool.
That was at the Methodist Church.
That was at the Methodist Church.
I remember the log cabin,
Okay.
it was a canteen forever.
Yeah.
They rolled it down, along Lexington Street on the logs. I remember doing it, rolling it, they take the logs and put it underneath and roll it down the street. Yeah, I remember that. I remember watching them do it. They set it up to the left of the swimming pool.
Boy, the picture didn't come out. The Lake City State Bank was known as the Lake City Depository. And it was chartered in 1940. And it was down at the True Look Hotel at the start. And then later on in the 1950s, they built the existing building where Fairview Framer is today. The capital stock was 40,000 at the time. Today's value, 734,000. Sam Mac's uncle, Willie McDaniel, Willie McLeod, J.P. Matthews, and vice president, and cashier was Mr. Kruger. The football team, same people, okay? But you would suspect Mr. Herb Rollins to be the quarterback. Guess who was the quarterback? Aba Tommy was quarterback in 1940. That's what the book says. Okay? If you don't know who Abe Tommy is, you should have known him. That's all I can say.
gentleman's name, first name is Council.
Okay? And here's the band. Had about 30 band members. This is the high school band. This is not the fireman band. The fireman band was actually made up of men of the town plus some high school kids at the same time.
They weren't necessarily fired.
No, they weren't. They were sponsored by the fire department. And this little guy right here is Abe Tommy. He's always got, he's just like his nephew Greg. Got to be out of place, you know? Out of place.
Is that Wendell on the end?
That's Wendell. That's Mr. Charles Kelly's brother, Wendell. Okay? They had a fireman band. They had the high school band and the orchestra. Okay? And they would play different joints around town. Okay? And guess who's in charge of the orchestra?
Tommy.
Hold on. Back it up. Okay. This guy right here, Mr. Harry Whitlock. I did not know he played saxophone nor the clarinet. This is Dr. Cockfield. Okay? And this is Jimmy Carter that was tied up during the bank robbery. And they would play different places around Lake City. So music was the thing in Lake City, still is today. The grammar school was being built in 1940. $100,000 of that time, $1,800,000, which included the auditorium, 17 classrooms, a first aid room, a book room, restrooms, and a large lunchroom, office space, and you didn't want to go to Mr. Edgar Whitehead. You did. And I can remember when it rained, the lunchroom would be flooded all the time. We'd just roll up, pant legs, and walk on. Okay? Auditorium was set 500. It was a WPA project. And the enrollment was 550 students. The fire department. Now, the fire department was located underneath City Hall. And somehow or another, fire got started in City Hall. The fire department caught on fire. That's the area. Okay? And then we had two fire trucks. They had to pull the fire trucks out, and while doing that, it blistered one of them. And they set them up and squirted the water on the fire station, put it out. This is Mr. Raymond Haskins, Mr. Ed Diggs, Mr. Walter Moody, Edgar Whitehead, and Mr. Boyd Nettles. Lake City trucks rushed from fire. Yeah, paving project. Says we were gonna have a new school. Oh man, we gotta have paving in front of the school. Down Taylor Street, okay, all the way up to Williamsburg, Church Street, to the depot, Saul Street, Hack line to Church Street. So we're paving more and more. Lake City in 1940s. A 6-day celebration. The American Legion Post decided to have a 6-day celebration. Start off with the Armistice Day celebration, or that day, which was on a Monday. On a Wednesday, it will be a Children's Day. And on Wednesday night, had a couple to get married. And I don't know where Rogers Lot is, or Rogers Filling Station is, but I suspect it was either one of two places. Either where downtown fashion was, or where Mr. Steve Rogers' house was. And I could not, I looked, tried to find who the couple was. Couldn't find out. But they got a big supper, hotel accommodation, and a car to go along with the honeymoon. So they had a big celebration, a week. Went from Monday to Saturday, not on Sunday. You know that. You know that from experience. You didn't do anything on Sunday in Lake City. Christmas lighting. Had a contest. First place won $10. Les Leverett. Now who was Les Leverett? Oh yeah. But what religion was it?
Jewish.
But this is a Christian celebration. They won first prize. Okay? Mayflower Cafe got $5, and then the lady shop got $5. And then the residents must have had 8 participants. You know, they didn't want to shame anybody. Okay? Arthur Parker, if you knew Miss Julia, you know, she had to have the finest. You know, L.L. Probst, Fat Mac's grandmother, Dr. Evans, my Lester Secretary's wife, Miss Sadie Hagan. All these were upstanding young women of the town. Andrew, celebration, fireworks. George Saleeby, or Miss Hazel Saleeby, was badly burned. He had a Roman candle that shot off and caught clothes on fire. And firecrackers in them, bridges. And they set off in the bridges. And they burned the leg, and she had to go next door. Okay? But you just got to think about this. As Levy was just 17 years old. What was 17-year-old woman? Girl. Yeah. Well, you're reorganizing. 2 years equal 1 term. Now we're going to have 4. Okay? New city attorney, Brett Whitlock. New fire chief, Morgan Moody. The police department was Mr. Price. Forrest Rogers was officer. And then we had a new councilman. Boyd Nettles begins his 3rd term in 1941. Mr. Edgar Whitehead, R.O. Coleman, Sidney Rittenbaker, Louis Probst, and Mr. Ben Cook. Mr. Probst is elected Mayor Pro Tem. Got any questions? We'll see you all back in February the 25th. We got a freshman's next door, across the street. So please come on over. And Dale, we've got some display cases, putting stuff in them. And we have